I was watching one of my favourite makers, the Swedish Maker. You should definitely check him out. He did a video about how we take inspiration and ideas from each other. It was a great video and he made some wooden vases in it. So I messaged him and asked him if he wouldn't mind me borrowing his idea. He said okay, so that's what I'm going to do today.
I've got this pile of hardwood offcuts, so I'm going to pick out a couple of nice pieces. I'm going to go for a bit of oak and a bit of sapele. So as I say, you should definitely check out the Swedish Maker. I'll put a link down to his video which I'm borrowing or getting inspiration off down below. These bits of wood are all a bit rough, so first I'm going to square up one end using the mitre gauge on the bandsaw. I'm going to make 3 different designs. The first one is going to be a vase for a single stem, so I work out how tall I want it to be, get it marked out, and then I can take the bits back over to the bandsaw and get them cut out. Now I did say this wood was a little rough, and as you can see, one surface is not square to the others, so I'm just going to get it put in the vise, get my low angle jack plane and plane it down square. So that's better and it's warmed me up a little. So I want the vases to have a bit of a neck like they're a bottle, so I mark out where I want it to start. I also mark out where I want the opening to be. Now I can join up those 2 marks I've made. I was a chef for 20 years and I've got a rather nice set of cookie cutters, but these days they mostly get used in the workshop as templates to draw around. So I'm going to use the biggest one, put it on the 2 lines I've made and then draw a nice curve for the neck of the vase, kind of like the neck of a bottle. So now it's back over to the bandsaw, I've got a nice thin blade in for doing tight curves and I can get these bits cut out. I've got them cut, but it all looks a bit 2-dimensional and I'd rather it to be more 3D. So I'm going to attach those bits that I've cut off back on, just using some packing tape. And then I can mark it out again on the other side, using the same marking gauge and curves, and then it's back to the bandsaw and cut it on the other side. This is not a technique I've tried before, but it's how you make console table legs. And that is something I want to have a go at in the future, so this was a nice little test. I'm happy with how these turned out and they look much better with the other side cut, but now I've got to sand all these curves. I've got these spindle sanders from Axminster, so I'm going to get the biggest one chucked up into the pillar drill and then I can start sanding. There'll be a link to this down below on the tools I use page as well. That's the curves of the neck sanded, but the body is still a bit chunky, so I'm going to take a nice small round over bit, get it put into my little 12-volt router, get the vases put in the vise and then just ease these corners over. If you didn't have a router, just some aggressive sanding would work, and sanding is the next step. Now, so that you can actually put water in these, you need something to protect the wood, and test tubes are what the Swedish Maker came up with, so I'm using that idea. I mark out the centre point on the top of the vases and I've got a 15mm drill bit which fits these test tubes perfectly. I get that put in the pillar drill and then I can start drilling. The Forstner bit leaves a really clean hole at the top and the pillar drill makes sure I'm going dead straight down. But the trouble is I can't drill deep enough with this setup. But what I have is a nice big 15mm twist drill bit. So now I've got the hole started and straight, I can just put it into the normal hand drill and drill down pretty much the full depth of the drill bit. I've got several bottles of nearly used up finish, so I feel this project is a great way of using them up. So I'm going to start doing these ones with some mineral oil. I love how oil transforms wood, and it particularly works well on sapele. Last job on these is just to drop the test tubes into place, and they're all done.
Right, so those first 4 are done. Now I want to make some other ones, and I'm going to go for something kind of inspired by a test tube rack, but instead of it being a frame, I'm going to use a solid bit of wood, and I have this bit of oak for it.
I'm going to make 2 racks, one with 3 test tubes, one with 4. So I lay some out, work out how long they need to be, get it marked out, and then it's back to the bandsaw to get them cut. Now this bit of wood isn't quite square either, but I'm warm now, so no more hand planing. Instead, I'm just going to use the bandsaw to rip off the last edge and square it all up. I mark out the positioning for the test tubes, and I'm going to go for a 5mm spacing. I get that drawn out, and then I need to find the centre of these lines so I can drill the holes. I take a little rule and join up the corners of those lines I've drawn. Then I can take a square and set it to the centre point. Then I can use that to mark out the centre on the lines. Last time I fully seated the test tubes in the wood. This time I want to make a feature of them and have them sticking out the top, so I mark out how deep I want them to go. These are shorter test tubes than the ones I used before, but they're slightly thicker. Now I can set the drill to the depth I need, going down to my line, and then get it drilled out. I will put links down below to the 2 different test tubes I used on this. Now I could leave them there, but I think they're looking a bit chunky, so I'm going to get one put in the vise, get the router back out, and round over all the corners. Now with them next to each other, I think I definitely prefer the rounded over one, so I'm going to do the same to the second one. This is why it's useful sometimes to make a couple of everything, so you can experiment and see which version you like the best. Then it's just more sanding before I try and use up some more finish, and this time it's some boiled linseed oil. Last job is just get the test tubes put in the rack, and that's design 2 done.
So that's 2 designs done. Now I'm going to go for a third. I'm actually going to use a quirk of one of the longer test tubes, and that is when it goes into the hole, it gets tighter at the top and stuck in there. So I'm going to make some wall mounted ones.
So I've actually got some sapele and oak offcuts from the first ones I did. Again, no more planing, I'm just going to rip them square on the bandsaw. I've changed to a nice thicker blade for doing this now. Then I can cross cut them into blocks. They're almost going to be cube shaped, not quite, but near as damn it. So this is all getting a bit familiar now. I draw across to find the centre, go to the drill, drill out a hole for the test tube. But now I'm going to deviate. I'm going to leave all the corners square, and I need a way of mounting it to the wall. So I've got these little keyhole plates. I've never tried them before. Need a 25mm drill bit. So again, I'm going to find the centre on the back, and then I can drill a shallow 25mm hole to accept them. So I can get the plate just positioned in the hole, and then with an awl, I'm just going to mark out the centre of the top hole and the centre of the bottom bit. Now these need drilling out so a screw will fit in them, and what I've got is a 10mm bit. So it's back over to the drill and drill down on those 2 points I've marked with the awl. The 2 holes overlap, so they're kind of hourglass shaped, but I want to make them more pill shaped, so I just get a chisel to remove that last little bit in between them. Before installing the plates, I'm going to get these finished, and I have a bit of the boiled linseed oil left over, so I'm just going to use that up on this. When the oil's dried, those plates can be installed. They're a bit tight in a 25mm hole, but I get them pushed in and then get a dowel on and a couple of taps with a mallet just to seat them down nicely. With them in, I can use the awl to mark out the 2 holes for the screws and then get them driven into place. So I will put links to these keyhole plates down below as well. Now, I did say those test tubes go in with a tight fit, but I'm a belt and braces kind of guy, so I'm going to put a little bit of CA glue around the top just to make sure they never come out. And that's them all done. 3 different designs of vases, all ready for the craft fair. And I've taken a lot of inspiration from the Swedish Maker, but hopefully I've done something of my own.
So there we go, 3 different vases done. A simple stem vase, a kind of test tube rack one, 1.3 and 1.5, and then these wall mounted ones. So these are ready to go off to the craft fair. Hopefully they'll sell, but I might make some more, and if I do, I will stick them up on my website, but I will announce that on my Instagram if I do. So thank you for watching. Thanks to my patrons, thanks to the Swedish Maker, and please subscribe for more videos.